In this quiet house, between bookshelves and rows of paintings, lives an artist. Something happened here. Something so frightening, so deeply unnerving. Something wicked, and so profoundly disgusting.
Oh boy, layers of fear. Oof. Okay. Now the reason why oh boy is because if you know me, I don't, I love horror movies. Okay, I love horror movies. Horror games, I can watch them, but I can't play them. Because one, I am terrible at them. And two, it's just, I can't really handle it. And so there's only like a specific few like horror games that I've, like those survival ones that I've actually like played. Like I remember I've played and beat Soma. And I'm actually surprised I was able to get through that. To be completely honest. This, okay. So when it comes to like, survival horror stuff, if my character has a gun, then okay, I'll be better. But if you don't and you're just basically getting jump scared through the whole entire thing, that's just a no for me. And this game is that. But I managed to get through it. Now, this game, Layers of Fear, it is about an artist, a painter, in I believe I can't remember the time period. It was either like I'm like blanking. It was like almost like the 1920s or 30s, something like that, and he has a family, but you don't see the family in the game. So it's throughout the course, it's basically this artist trying to create his masterpiece, who's very burnt out. He can't really find work anymore because all the work he's done is just, been like bombed and everything. And so he's trying to get back into the light with his art. And so he's struggling to complete his masterpiece or do his masterpiece, while at the same time he's battling his own, psyche. And I do appreciate the game being one of those show and don't tell kind of games. I do appreciate that. But through a game like this, where almost every single room you go into, it's just something's gonna jump at you, and a lot of it works and is effective. I'll give it that, but a lot of it seems very unnecessary, and it's just like I feel like you just did that just to throw me off. And this is why I don't particularly play just like these just straight up horror games. It's because, if you're just going to just throw a whole bunch of jump scares in my face, then I'm just going to be like, all right, I'm just not going to play your game. But if you do that kind of like atmospheric type stuff, then okay, I'm with it. And this game does both of it. So there were times where I'm going like, okay, I'm done. But then it would pull me back in and throw that atmospheric stuff. And I'm like, okay, see, I prefer this version. I prefer what you're doing here. And I, like I said, I do appreciate the show and don't, the show, and the show not tell kind of thing. Jeez, I don't know why it took me long to say that. I do appreciate that. And this game does a really good job at doing that. It's just when it's, as you're trying to figure it out, it's very like, okay, like, all right, very slow, but also very, it just, like I said, it's just filled with just jump scares everywhere. Like every single room you go into It's just something will get thrown at your face. You'll hear like a loud sound, like that kind of thing. But then there are those moments that are very atmospheric and actually build up. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that. I appreciate that. That's what I think scares should be. Most of the time, it's, most of the time it is that, but at the same time, it's not. And, it's like throughout the game, you have to find like different objects, but then as you're collecting them, you start realizing like, oh, this is really messed up. So I do appreciate them like showing the story, not telling the story. And at the very end, you're just like, oh my god, well that's crazy. But here's something that kind of just irritated me. When I finished the game, I was thinking there was going to be a lot more. And then I get to the main menu, and there's, instead of the continue button, it says finish it. And I'm like, oh, so maybe there's a prologue, maybe there's something like that. But no, it when I went in it, like the canvas that I had was completely blank, like in the start of the game. And it was like I had to go through the entire game again to then almost see like the true ending. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's very much a slap in the face. And I heard that there's a couple of endings to the game, and I guess the one I got was, I guess, the bad ending. I'm not too sure. Mainly because at a certain point, I really stopped caring about, everything, and was just kind of like, all right, I'm just moseying through this place. Like, what am I supposed to find? And I do, there is like a couple of puzzles, but the game kind of just gives it to you if you're willing to accept a jump scare. So it's like the jump scare happens, and then that's the finishing touch to the puzzle. Okay. So really, it's kind of like everything's given to you. It's not like something like Resident Evil where it's a puzzle and then you have to constantly like go around trying to find that specific piece and then do it. It's not like that. This is kind of like you're in a room, you're kind of trapped in there, and you have to solve this puzzle. So you kind of have to look around the room to see if something activates, and then once you find that, it's a loud sound, and it's just like, okay, I get it. So like, to me, my first I think 2 hours I played it with a headset, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I was just like, this is way too loud, and if you're just going to keep doing this, then I'm not going to play your game. But then, like I said, the atmospheric stuff started coming around. The story started coming out more. And I was like, okay, this is actually fascinating. I'm interested in what you're saying. And I definitely enjoyed the second half more than the first half, because in the second half it got more atmospheric. It wasn't really a whole bunch of jump scares anymore, and I appreciated that. And it's I get it's an indie game, and I like supporting independent stuff. But with this, it's like okay, I played it. I really don't think I'll play this again. And if I do, it'll probably be I'll be sitting watching somebody play this. And especially like the very end where the credits rolled, and then I get back to the main screen, and then there's the finish it. It was like it almost restarted the game. So it's like I had to find everything again and go through all of that again. I'm like, all right, well, kind of screw you. If you're gonna do that, then screw you. And that's kind of what it did. And I started I found I did the first object when I was in that, and I was just like, wait, does this game want me to go back and look for everything again? Then no, I'm not gonna do this. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not really I'm not penalizing it because, I don't play, just straight up horror games. If it's straight up horror, I'll watch someone play it, but if it's a horror game with like a when you have like weapons and a gun, then sure, I'll play it, but not this kind of game. Not this game. So I'm surprised I finished it, and with all the complaining I've been saying about the game, I do have to admit that it is very atmospheric in the scares. I was very invested in the story, what story there was there. So I was intrigued by it. So I think at the end of the day, to me, this gets an average because, I didn't like that it was the constant jump scares. So it's just like, okay, stop that. Stop that. But I do have to admit that what story they were showing, I was intrigued and wanted to play more just to see what was going to happen. So I will give them points for that. But at the end of the day, this is really not one of those horror games that I will go back and replay it. It's like, okay, I finished it. I'm done. And, despite it being atmospheric and what I liked about that, it just, jump scares they don't work for me. Where it's like, if you constantly do it, it's just like, okay, stop that. I'm getting annoyed at this point. So I wish a lot of horror games stopped doing that. But despite my issues, I still think it's a very atmospheric game, and the story is quite inventive and quite messed up as well. So I do give it points for that.
What do we do when we fail? We start over.